everyone, welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I am Richard Carlton here with fmtrain.tv, where every day at 1 o'clock we're doing great FileMaker training. Some days we're doing the training, some days other people are doing the training, but either way we're excited to have everyone here. We got a bunch of folks on Discord here and obviously on Twitch and YouTube as well. So in fact, I need to press the update button over here and see if I can update that so I can keep an eye on the YouTube conversation as well. Very cool. So if you are on Twitch or Discord or Twitch or YouTube, feel free to let us know who you are so we can keep an eye and we know your name. There's Lynn from Austin, Texas. Welcome, Lynn. Very exciting. So glad you are here. So today we're going to be doing a bunch of different awesome things. We are here with Ssl Event. He'll be here momentarily. Here's his smiling face right here. He's on hot standby. There he is. Smile. There he is. Wonderful. Let's check. Before we do that, we're going to cover the real quick news and upcoming announcements. We do this every day. So if we take a look at the upcoming live training schedule, Ssl Event is here today, and then tomorrow and Friday, we've got some Kyle Williams action. The next week is kind of a weird week, right? So we have at 11 o'clock, we have the certification training that'll be going on. That's a paid event for people who have our training package. And then 2 hours later, we will still be running the regular broadcast. And Monday, we're kicking off the beta for the new starting point, which has the neomorphism in there. So I've seen screenshots of it. We've had feedback with the designer, Nick Hunter, but we'll have to see what's going on with that. That'll be exciting for Monday. So next week, we're like doing twofers. We're doing certification training, which will be pretty intensive. And if you're interested in the certification training, what you do is you go to the FM Training website. You press the live tab, of course, that's how you see the broadcast schedule for the free live sessions. But if you want the certification training, you press the button on the right side and you can see the upcoming schedule on that. We've been emailing people pretty profusely about this, letting them know that if they have the complete training bundle, then we can hook them up. And this will be probably, when it's all said and done, it'll probably be close to 10 hours of certification training. During this training, we're not teaching you how to use FileMaker. We're not teaching you, well, that's a really amazing function. How might you use it, right? We're not going to be teaching about that. This is about rote memorization, the areas that you need to be aware of, the areas that you need is to commit to memory or loosely know, depending upon the situation. So we're taking the Claris documentation they provide. They have a PDF, which actually is surprisingly very forthright in what it describes as on the test. It's pretty accurate. We're going to provide additional amplification on that to the common high traffic areas. So for example, with scripts and calculations, things like that, there's hundreds and hundreds of these things, kind of like Monkey Bread software has like 6,789 features that it has. Every day goes up. But if Monkey Bread was going to have a certification test, he wouldn't test you on all 6,700 of those. He'd pick the 20 or 30 most common functions that people use, and he would test you on that. It's kind of like FileMaker works, so Claris works. So they test on those high traffic areas. So that is that. We have the upcoming training. We also have the free videos. And then, so what I want to do is pivot now to Ssl Event. Klaus is a fantastic developer. He works for Datamaniacs, and does a great deal of, he's been on our show before. We're talking about the missing admin tool, some really great tools for talking to FileMaker Server. A very talented developer, has a team in Europe. Where are you located, and how big is your team, Klaus?
It's in Denmark, and then we have a team in Spain. I think we are 7 people now.
Okay, 7. That's you continue to grow. It's a lot. Working by yourself is one thing. Working with a team is a whole new skill set, right? You learn out managing people, right? So yeah, Klaus is very sharp, very professional, and I have the highest regard for what he brings to the table. So, what are we doing today, Klaus? What's the conversation today?
Yeah, so the conversation is about installing and configuring FileMaker Server on the Ubuntu Linux version. And more specifically, because you have done live streams about that before, but more specifically, I'm going to show a shell script that I use for setting up a FileMaker server in approximately 5 minutes. and then we are going to dig into that shell script. So basically, what we do every single day is that we try to optimize and automate processes, flows for our customers, and we are using a great tool for that called FileMaker, where we write scripts and other things to and other codes in order to make it easier for our customers. So when we need to set up a FileMaker server, why not make it easier for ourselves? So that's basically the idea about this. And then hopefully you'll see, I don't know what your level are on the audience, but I mean, many people are not that fond of the command line stuff, but it is really powerful. And I mean, the shell scripts here, as you can see, it's there's a lot of elements into it, but it's actually not that complicated.
Okay.
So that's the
Cool.
idea. Yep.
Well, we have people, all sorts of people. I am getting comments that your volume is a little bit low, so if we want to up that as much as we can.
Okay, yeah. My problem is that it's going down automatically.
Yeah, that overmodulates. So right in between there, that's better. So people, if it's too low for you, let us know. But yeah, there we go. So so you want to show us your script and walk us through it. So if you have questions, Lalit is there, Labo404, Mark Johnson's there, another Marine is there. If you folks have questions about what we're doing today, please let us know so we can pass them along to Klaus. So, Klaus, show us your screen and what are we doing?
So what I've found here is the I'm going to create an instance on the AWS. Well, basically, it really doesn't matter where you have the Ubuntu instance, but it's just pretty fast to create an instance here. So I'm going to walk through this creation of the instance really fast. It's not this part that is interesting, but we need an instance so we can run. The FileMaker server for Ubuntu is running on 18.04, so we need to select that. I'm going to choose a reasonable size of instance. This part you don't need to look at. So now we are creating the volume. So one thing that this script is doing is that we are doing best practice. And best practice means that we have a system drive. This is the volume. So this is the system drive. I just upped it to 50 gigabytes. So I'm sure we have enough for the Ubuntu installation, the FileMaker server, and all the cache stuff in case that we are going to use this for, creating PDF files on the server and so on. That can lead to some space use of that. But the next thing I'm adding is a 10 gigabytes of data volume, where we are putting our database files. Then I'm going to add a container volume of 15 gigabytes. And I'll show you later why I'm using these specific numbers. The only thing to notice is that these three volumes have different sizes. And it's the only thing that is a little bit important, at least when you're doing the Amazon stuff. Anyway, this is just the security group, and now I'm gonna launch, and I'm gonna choose some existing. There we go. Okay, this part was not very interesting. So here we have it. And I'm just going to name it for myself, and then I need the IP address, and off screen I'm updating the DNS record for this one. The DNS update is not, that's not interesting either. So now we are running. The instance is running, and the status check is about to, it's initializing. All right. So now we are starting here. So so what to do now is, yeah. So let me put this on screen. So I'm going to upload a folder that I have given a specific name. And in this folder, I have a couple of files. I have the assisted install where you can name the path to the license certificate, the admin username and password, and so on. I have just put in some really easy one here. It's not really very important. The important thing is to set it up with a username and password, because the password you, of course, change afterwards. I have a license certificate here, which is valid, of course. Then I have a smaller file here that I will get back to. And then I have a folder for SSL. And I have renamed the file names that we get from the SSL pusher. And that's just for convenience. So there's a signed certificate, there's the intermediate certificate, and there's the server key. And if you watched me by accident on the last broadcast, I said this file should never leave the server. So I'm doing something that is against best practice here. But we need to install an SSL certificate, because if there's no SSL certificate on the server, then we will have problems getting in touch with the server using the admin console, because most browsers won't let us connect to the admin console if there's no valid SSL certificate. And the good thing is that you could have a SSL certificate bundle like this that you install always as default, and then for making the security better and using best practice, you should install a new SSL certificate from scratch, and you can do that when you have a valid already. All right, and then I have these shell scripts that I have been talking about.
Okay, so let me just can I ask a couple questions here, just like big picture questions? So we're doing an automated install of FileMaker Server on AWS, and this is the Linux one, correct? And
yes.
So we're staging all the support files we need before we start the automation process, right? That's what we're doing here.
Yes.
So there's a lot of us who are people here who are not at Klaus level. Klaus is like Kyle with SQL. I mean, he goes 9,000 miles an hour, and the rest of us try to follow what he's saying. So this is the assisted install. This is going to contain your FileMaker Server specific config, serial numbers, FileMaker Server stuff. Then we had the SSL Then we're going to have the over there. Then we're going to have the.
Actually, the only thing, just to make it more simple, Richard, the only thing that this file really has is the admin console user name and password. And then there's the PIN number in order to restore. So that's really what it has to it.
So you're pre-setting up what the admin console username and password will be.
Exactly.
So we're pre-setting up the username, password, and then the PIN number. We remember all that from doing basic installs of FileMaker Server. Okay, so go and close that. So we're staging. Here is that. Then this is the SSL that the server will need, because we always need an SSL pretty much anymore. And then so the rest of this, these are your shell script instructions. Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the license certificate.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking about this and that together, but they're kind of. Yeah, it's the FileMaker facing stuff that you'd have to put in during the install. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
In order to not run in demo mode, right?
Right. Yeah, we don't want to run demo.
Right. No. And this file, I'll get back to you what this really is. Okay. But this is the magic part. That's the shell script. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna take this off screen. I have a lot of stuff off screen. So we need to connect to the instance, and we need to upload something to the instance. And well, we could use the command line to do the upload, but I find it much easier to use an application like Transmit to upload. So I've already pre-configured this one. The username is Ubuntu on Amazon. That's always the case. And now we should get here to the Ubuntu. Okay, so this is different from vendor to vendor, meaning that on Amazon, we have a user named Ubuntu, and this is very frustrating, which has a folder inside the home folder. When you set it up on other cloud vendors, you could run it as root. We are using DigitalOcean, for example, and there's no Ubuntu user. There's only the root, and the root has a folder outside in the structure. But anyway, I have the folder here that we just looked at, so I'm going to upload it, and it's just drag and drop, and there's not much to it. The FileMaker Server installation file is not in here. So now it's up on the server, and now we don't need this app anymore. It was only for uploading. So now we are, it was maybe a little bit too big. Let me set it up here. This is the terminal, the command line terminal. Let me clear screen. All right. So what I'm doing now is that I'm already inside a folder that contains the SSH key. And the SSH key is, I have it here. It's basically a certificate key that you get from the Amazon. This is stuff that you could, that's for another session, but I'm already inside this folder when I'm here, and now I need to connect to our instance, which I'm doing like this one. Okay, and then Ubuntu.
That's good. Keep doing that, but we do have one question. So Christian Schmidt from Monkey Bread goes, so does the shell script, so the shell script doesn't load the FMS package from the Claris website, or it does?
We'll back to that. We'll get back to that.
We'll get back.
Now,
hey, quit jumping ahead, Christian Schmidt. You're breaking our demo.
Yeah. All right. So now I'm in the Ubuntu machine. Now I need to navigate to the folder where the package is. So I'm going to change directory. It's inside home, it's inside Ubuntu, and it's inside a folder named dm fms install. Well, it's just my name. So now we need to run the shell script inside here, and I need to run it as sudo, which means that I'm the root and I have permissions to do anything. So I need to run it, and the way I do that is by typing in a dot and a / and then I need to type in the name of the shell script. Right, so I'm gonna set it in motion, and now it's gonna do its stuff nicely here. It takes a couple of minutes, and while it's doing that in the background here, I'm just gonna leave the terminal here. Let's look at what the script is actually doing. First, it's set up drives for the FileMaker. It's gonna format them. It's gonna do the path and mount the drives. So when we have volumes on Ubuntu or Linux, when you plug it in, you need to format them, and you need to create a path where you can mount them to, basically a mounting point. This is all Linux stuff. When you do that on Windows, you need to go into a control panel and say get it online, and then format it and give it a drive letter and so on. On Macintosh, you just plug the drive in, and then more or less basically it just spins up. Maybe you need to format the drive, but this is the way FileMaker do it. Linux do it. So we are going to do this first. And this is where, well, I'm going to show that in the script. We are going to dig into that. So because I'm in Denmark, I don't want the instance to be running in a different time zone than Copenhagen. Typically, it's born with a US time zone, so I changed that. But basically, you can change it to whatever is needed here. Then we are going to install, configure, and start the automatic OS updates module. There is some code that is out comment on this one because the instance that we get on AWS is automatically applying security updates by default, which are the updates that we really want to apply automatically. The other packages updates, we can do that manually if we want that. So next step is that we are installing required Ubuntu packages and making an Ubuntu update and upgrade and install a module called JQ that we are using for JSON parsing. So this is basically saying, okay, so we have this disk image of an Ubuntu machine, and we need to make sure that all the packages is updated and upgraded. We are not going to upgrade from 18 to 20, but we are, well, that's what they do on the Linux stuff, where it's named upgrade. And then we are going to install the FileMaker server. We are going to change the privileges, so the disks that are for data, container, and backup data is now owned by FileMaker Server, because FileMaker Server needs to have the right permissions to these folders or disks, basically, in order to work. And we're doing this after the installation of FileMaker Server, because then the FileMaker Server users are and groups are set up there. Then we are going to do some FMS setup via command line. I say optional Ssl import via command line. We're actually doing it. Then we are going to configure and reload firewall for. Okay, so this is retrospect, and this is a remote backup software that we use. It's a commercial product that we use for remote
Retrospect
backup.
is still in business, eh? Okay, I did not know they were still around.
Yeah, they are very much still around.
Okay.
It's, I used it in the 90s, and I still use it because it works pretty well.
It works. Okay,
yeah.
Good. If Klaus uses it, it must work. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And actually, I watched a session you had with Wim and the Moyer couple.
Yes.
Where they were talking about the what's it called, the retention backup.
Yes.
Basically,
basically
backup.
Yeah, once you make a backup, it's like locked in concrete for a period of time.
Exactly.
And even if you're a bad guy or a good guy, you can't get to it. It's locked. You can it's read only, but it's not. You can't write to it. Yeah, right. Yeah. So
exactly. And retrospect can do that.
Really? Okay.
So yeah, yeah. So that's another thing. So I'm gonna configure the firewall for retrospect, and then I'm gonna install the retrospect client for remote backup. Naturally, this is my specific parts here. Then I'm gonna fix local settings, and that is basically because it's set up with US format on dates and numbers and so on, and I want to have it working with the rest of the world, which is why I fix local settings. Then I'm gonna install the MySQL drivers. The reason for that is that it's very common that we use the ES feature to connect to MySQL servers, and it's not installed and set up by default. So we're gonna do that, and then we are gonna do some FMS setup via the admin API. And that's the thing with the FileMaker server. You cannot do everything via command line. You cannot do everything with admin API. So we are doing several stuff here, both via command line and then via the admin API. Then we are going to clean up the files. Well, basically, we are going to delete the files, the folder that we uploaded. Then we are setting the hostname for the machine itself. And then we are finally going to reboot. So the Apache web server and the FMS is going to pick up the Ssl certificate, and the other settings will work. So that's basically it. And what we're doing via the command line, this FileMaker stuff, we are, and you know, you can change this to your likings. This is my preferred setup for a basic setup, and that is enabling the client stats. So we have a way of looking into that log file in order to debug culprits in the FileMaker solutions, and doing the server stats, enabling that. And then I'm gonna set up the FileMaker database cache. And finally import the SSL via command line. And the stuff we're doing with the admin API is update the server name. This is not the host name of the server. This is the server name that you will see in parentheses when you open your solution. And then I'm going to disable automatically opening the automatic opening of the database files. Then we are going to set the folders for data and backup and container, and then the folder for backup, because we added 3 disks, one for data, one for container, and one for backup. Then I'm going to enable DAPI, because we are using that normally in pretty much any solution. Then I'm going to set up the email notification. And that is any notification from the server should be sent to what email address, and what is the email account details for that. Then you need to enable the email notification. I'm going to enable database plugins, because we use that as well. And then we are enabling the, allow database plugin installation. I typically never allow for DAPI or custom web publishing, because I don't want any web code to automatically install these plugins. I would much rather move the plugins into the right place. Then we are going to set up the filter on the database list, so that the user must enter their credentials to see the list of database files. This is annoying, but this is a layer of security-ish. And then we are going to
hiding the database list is disable server discoverability. What does discoverability, is that like an LDAP, or what kind of discoverability are we talking about with that?
Yeah, I think it's basically it's if you can go into the same network as the server. I'm actually not completely sure if it's more than me and names, right? The invention that Apple did in order to, where you can discover what is it called? You custom install it on Windows.
It's Bonjour, right? Bonjour, right?
Bonjour, yeah.
Yep.
Bonjour.
By the way, that's on the certification test, everyone. That's on the test. We'll be covering that next week. You're so excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, this is just the few things it's doing, this phrase. Does it sound okay?
Yeah, you're good. The audio, I turned some stuff up on my end, which makes me wonder, we're going to leave it like this going forward, but it's at least on our end, it's a lot happier, but makes me wonder. Hey, Lynn, real quick, Lynn, if you're listening, if you listen to other days, was it just today? Because I had to restart the broadcast computer today, and whenever you restart a Mac, then who knows what's going to happen, especially with the way we have it wired up here. But I'm wondering if other days were okay, and this today was quiet until we turned it up, so let me know. Put a message in YouTube for me. All right, cool. So you're doing good. So we talked about this. Are we actually going to pull the trigger and watch this happen?
Yeah, it's well, as you can see now, it's done. The last thing here was that connection was closed by the remote host. So this happened, finished a long time ago, actually. So what happened now is that the server is actually installed, configured, and up and running. And as you can see here in the console was, okay, so we started here. There was a lot of stuff going on here. If you're a geek, then you could dig into that. But this is basically all the libraries and packages that is being installed, both as a part of the and then here's the response of the stuff we did via the admin API. So now it's up and running, and let's see if we can see that. So I'm gonna bring back this one. I'm gonna reload, and as you can see, it's actually up and running now. No, and for some reason we have to see that sign.
It was imported successfully.
It's up and running.
Yeah. I have a question. So I missed
now
when you started it going. Well, it's almost running, right?
No, it's not almost running. It is running just like I wanted it to.
Okay.
For a very good reason, there's no files open. Because I said, do not automatically open the files.
Right. Got it. Okay.
Right. And there's a very good reason for that, because it's best practice. Because if you have a server that is rebooting during the opening of the database files, you can end up with corrupted and very corrupted database files that in essence you can corrupt that much that you cannot open them.
Yep.
And if do not open automatically, you can be sure that your users will contact you and say, hey, I cannot get on the system. And then you will discover that something happened.
Yes.
And then you can dig into that and make sure to get the backup file instead. So it's running exactly like I wanted it to.
I have a question. From the time you started to the time it was done, and we were talking a lot and going around in circles, how long does it take for this to actually execute end to end?
When I start the shell scripts to it finished, it takes, I've done this a handful of times as a preparation for this session.
About what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
No. 4 or 5 minutes.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah. Or probably between 3 and 5 minutes.
Well, Christian Schmidt probably thinks it's slow, but for me, knowing how long it takes me to install a server by hand, it's pretty quick. So.
Yeah. This is also very quick for me. I couldn't do it in 5 minutes manually.
Yeah.
With all the stuff that is going on, so it's pretty fast.
Monkey Bread says Christian Schmidt says you are extreme awesome, and this is very fast. So Christian Schmidt gives you his stamp. You have the Monkey Bread stamp of approval. There you go.
Thank you a lot. All right. So let's look into what we actually did. We have the FM server sample file. I could actually have removed this as a part of the shell script, but I chose to leave it here, even though the first thing I'm probably going to do is to remove it to start fresh. All right. In the backups, I didn't change anything, but in the configuration, as you can see here, the server name is now changed to the server name that I set it up to. I disabled the automatically open the database files. So this is set up just like I specified in the shell script for the FileMaker. Okay, so something didn't work correctly here because this should have been turned on. Maybe I wrote something wrongly. But this is one of the last settings I've put into to the shell script, so I haven't tested that properly. But normally this should have been on. So for the folders, I have enabled additional database folder. I have set up the database folder path as the file Linux. And going to I have created a mount point named data and mounted the the volume to this mounting point. This is how it's done in Linux. So in order to make it simple, I just say, okay, I want to name it data with small letters. I enable the container data folder with the name of container. It's mounted. I also enabled the backup of container data. This is something I did. Naturally, you could not do that if that fits your setup. And then I changed the backup folder to the Linux backup. So this was all done in the shell scripts. I didn't do anything in scripts. I could actually add a script here. If I wanted that, I could have added a backup schedule script if I wanted to. I didn't. The notification, I set up the notification email, and I turned on the email notification that it should be sending. The Ssl certificate is set up just like I said it should be. I chose not to enable WebDirect and the web publishing engine. I could have done that if I wanted to. The FileMaker DAPI is turned on, like I said it should be. The plugin is enabled, and I enable that the plugin install plugin file script step is enabled for native FileMaker solutions. The web publishing plugins is enabled. I can't remember if I actually did that or if this is a installation default. Anyway, I did not turn on the web publishing install plugin script step. I did not do it for the data API, but the plugins for data API is enabled. The ODT, I didn't turn that on. I could have done that. The OData, again, I didn't turn it on, but I could have done that. So all that is left for me to do now is, and the license certificate is also installed here. Meaning that my server is licensed, it's good to go, it's up and running. So the only thing I need to do here is actually to go in and change the password of the server, because I had the password in plain text. And when you have something in plain text, it's not secure. And this was because I had it here. I had the password here. So, of course, the first thing you need to do when it's up and running is to go in and change the password. Something that's difficult and secure, right? So now the server is running. It's ready for you to move that sample file off and then start uploading your file.
Kyle Williams says this is really awesome. It's nice to see the problem areas of FileMaker's default settings being automatically fixed. Definitely a time saver. Great job, Klaus. Labo44 has a question. He says, I didn't see there is a verbose mode in the event log, I guess, if an error occurs in the script or a log. So when you run your, so the question is, what kind of telemetry can we get back as this shell script is running, right? Can we,
You can see here, you get all this stuff back. This is feedback from the shell script. So this is actually one of the awesome things about shell scripts. It is, when we're talking about command line stuff, you are entering a command line. So it could be like this one. I need to, not this one because I need to log in, but let's say I want to do an ls for listing what's inside here. And then I can see what is actually inside here. Or I could cd and go to home, and then I could do an ls to see what's inside here. All these commands is something that, who can remember all these commands, right? Well, some geeky people might be able to remember some of these commands, but most people, and I also look up commands all the time because it's not interesting. It's pretty boring. But just just like now, where I'm entering a command, I get a response here, and the same thing happens up here. this is when we are running the script and we are asking for doing stuff here. If an error occurs, then the shell script will normally bail out and then just stop in the middle. So meaning that if I have an error on line 58, then it will stop and tell me, hey, there's something wrong here. So that's by default, the terminal is pretty verbose. So,
all right, cool. Monkey
Bread makes any sense.
Yeah, Monkey Bread says, Labo says thanks on that. Monkey Bread says the script could need some echo commands to output headlines for each step. The stopping is important so we can read the error. So that's from Christian Schmidt. So yeah.
Sure, and that's the thing. I'm not saying I'm a specialist in doing shell scripts or anything else for that matter. So I know this can be even better than this, and I'm pretty sure that Christian is probably better at doing shell scripts than I am. But hey, this works. And
it works great. It works great.
Yeah. And my point here is to say, hey, you can actually do this because it's pretty simple. So when you have a shell script, this is just a text file. A shell script is nothing other than a text file. The important thing is to start it with this one. You have a hash exclamation mark and then bin bash. That is to tell the command line that, hey, this is a bash script, a shell script. I'm not going to go into this. Different flavors of shell scripts and command line prompts and so on. This is very boring stuff, but I think the command line has been around since the 60s. I think Unix was invented in late 60s or maybe start 70s, which is like 50 years ago.
Yep.
So there's nothing new here. Well, of course, it has been updated and so on, but the basics are pretty much the same. So the idea is that anytime you need to do a comment, and I've done a lot of comments here for my own sake, you need to use this hash sign. Right, so I'm always doing some history. What is the purpose? Who did this? And when was it last revisions? Say before, try to run, make sure it's executable. Well, actually, that's not really. Here's the command: sudo change plus x, and then the file name. You can do that, and then run this command: sudo blah blah blah. Just what I did. So I just put it into the comments in case you're not doing this very often. So then you have the stuff here.
Yeah.
And then I say before running this script, make sure that you have this prepackaged folder. Blah blah blah. Blah 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 blah. Okay, and around line 336, there's the notification email account. This is currently hard coded. Okay, blah blah blah. This is for my benefits here. Okay. So the thing is that when you add volumes to an instance on Amazon, the only thing, and I didn't show that because it's not that interesting, but the only name that we see when we set it up is like the SDA, SDB, SDC is the name. And there's no way to see that when the instance is installed. Then the name is called NVMN1 or so. So it has different names, and that's why it was important to have different sizes of the disks, because if they have different size, then we have a way of finding those disks again by searching for the size of the disk. And then we know which disk was a data disk, which was for container, which was for backup. And the setup I did was all SSD disks, so they have the same price and they were not that big and so on. But if you have like a lot of container data, then you would probably not go with the SSD because that's kind of expensive to have 500 gigabyte or 1 terabyte. Maybe you want to go with a spinning disk that is substantial, much more affordable. And it really doesn't matter if you have a spinning disk for container data. Basically the same for the backup. And especially when something probably, okay. It's also in the future, sorry. So, and then you can always resize the disks afterwards. That's the beauty of the virtualized stuff. So here, basically what we just did, this is the recipe of what we're doing. So, okay, so here's the thing. We start with setting variables for this script, and this is just like FileMaker. The only thing that is, well, it's the format is a little bit different. You just specify a variable name and then the equal sign, and then make sure you don't have spaces. That's the only thing that is tricky. Also, bear in mind that variable names are case sensitive. So the case is really does matter here. Okay, so first of all, I'm setting up a variable for the install directory, which was the package folder that I uploaded. And the reason for that is because we need to into this folder and the SSL files, the assisted install, the license certificate, and so on. So we are setting that up. And here is the thing about the disks. So we want to know what was the data disk size, what was the container disk size, what was the backup disk size. And because I have already prepared this with 10 gigabyte, the 15 gigabyte, and 25 gigabyte, that was why I picked those specific sizes when we span off the instance, right? And there's some comment here that you need to write it in a specific way. Then we have a Linux username, which we need to use as well. And like I wrote, and that's basically for myself as well, or for myself, this one. On AWS, the username is Ubuntu. On DigitalOcean, it's root. And if we were doing some on Google Cloud or Azure Cloud, it's probably something different, or maybe it's the same. I don't know. But these are what I tested this for. So I'm going to give the server a host name, and I'm setting it up here. That's the fully qualified domain name, setting up here, and then I'm specifying the FMS username and password here, and they are the same as what was specified in the assisted install file. All right.
Yeah.
So make sure that this is set up correctly. So as you can see here, this is not the same file that I actually uploaded for spinning up this stuff. This is a different file where I have replaced some stuff here when we go through it. So this was FMS stuff. Then the SSL key file has a key file password, which you name here, and naturally I didn't want to specify that, show that in plain text for you. And then we have the FMS version, and as of now, this is the most recent version of the FileMaker Server. And the great thing is that when a new version comes out, you just need to find out what is the version number and build number and put it in here, and then everything still works. Because we have a FMS URL for getting the version from Claris's download site. Okay, and then I know the file name is FMS underscore, and then here I'm reusing my variable that I just set up here, FMS version. I'm reusing this with a $sign and then the curly brackets and then case sensitive name of the variable. there's a couple of ways you can refer to a variable in a shell script. I just found this one is working, so I go with this. And if you want to know more about shell scripts, take a online course about that.
Yep.
Right, and then when we get this one down, we have a zip name. Well, and I'm saying, okay, so this is just with the zip and so on, and then we have a FMS file name that gets. This is the package that is being installed. This is the name of the installer package with the FMS version number. So I'm reusing the variable I set up here. So here's some stuff for the retrospects. I have the client on one of our servers. That's why I anonymized it here. I have a couple of variables here for the version of that one. Then I have the Mysql path where we can get the 8.0.27 for Linux file for the drivers. When I did this script, it was 0.25, and then it didn't work because I hadn't updated it to 27. But just changing the version number to 27, then everything was working again. Again, here we have file name, and then I have a folder when it's unpacked and so on. And then we have some.
It amazes me that works without human intervention. It amazes me that it works without human intervention. I think that's just, sorry, I'm just impressed.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So when we need to get to the admin API, we need a host name. Since the shell script is running directly on the server, we can just use 127.0.0.1, which is the same as localhost. Awesome. What is the server name? And this is the server name that I want to name it. I just said, okay, so I just want my FileMaker server to have the same name as the host name. That's for your liking. You can also put in, this is the live server, this is the staging server, this is the development server. Basically, this is just a name for the server that you will see when you connect to the FileMaker server, and you'll see it on the files. But other than that, I just choose to use the host name. Then we need a username password for the FileMaker server here. Sorry, and it needs to be in this format because we need to create a basic login where we do a base 64 of the FMS username and password. We need these credentials in this format for doing the admin API stuff. Okay. Oh, okay. So we are in a hurry. I can see. Sorry.
Nope.
Okay. I'll try to speed up.
No, you're fine. You're fine. All right. I'm just answering some questions to some people here. I'm asking if they have any questions. Okay. Yeah, we are winding down here. But yeah, what questions do we have? You're fine. I'm just sitting here. Okay. That would save. Yeah. So Labo says a meme. He's got the meme there. I don't know if you can see the meme. Are you looking at Discord at all, Klaus? So
no.
Okay. I'll just bring it up here real quick. This is the comment. I love it. I like it. This would save some time. I love it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the meme there. You can't see it, but trust me. There you go. All right. Keep going.
Okay. So. Yeah, I'll do that. There's some blah 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 comments here, but basically I'm looking for I'm doing some stuff. So this is actually the path to the actual volumes. They are named NVMe1 and 1, NVMe 2 and 1, and 3 and 1, which is Linux Jimbo Jumbo, which, well, whatever. This is the format on AWS. It's different on DigitalOcean and probably different on other vendors, but this is for the AWS. So I'm going to find out what are the sizes of these physical drives. I get that here. And then I'm going to, and this could probably be done much more elegantly, but what I'm doing here is basically trying to determine is disk number 1, the first one, is that the data disk, or is that the container disk, or is that the backup disk? Since I know I have 3 drives and I need to have them to a mount point. So I'm going to determine that here. Then I'm going to do the mount point here, and then I'm going to I'm going to make the dir, I'm going to make a mount point, and then I'm going to mount the correct disk to the mounting point that I create here, which is a little bit jumbo, but basically I'm creating a mounting point named data, container, and backup. And then based on what I was looking for up here, I determined, and my state here, I determined which of the physical volumes needs to be mounted on which mounting point. So basically, which one is data, container, and so on. Not only that, but when we have mounted that, then we need to get the UUID of the data disk, the container disk, and the backup disk, which are now on a mounting point, because I need to make a change in a specific file that is in etc fs tab, so that it will automatically mount after reboot. Otherwise, if I'm rebooting before I do this, then the drives are not mounted, which means that anything that you put onto these drives will just go into the system drive, which is exactly what we don't want to, right? So that was the thing. I wanted to change the time zone to Copenhagen, because that's what I need here. Here's the command for that. And as you can see, well, you're at Copenhagen, so you're in Sydney, Australia, Sydney, I guess, whatever. This is so simple, right? And then the automatic OS updates module, which is automatically done by on Amazon, but it could be different on on other cloud vendors. So here's the part where I'm doing. I'm installing a module called unzip, which could be there or could not be there, but just to make sure, I'm installing this unzip because I need that. After downloading zip files, I need to unpack them. I'm going to update, I'm going to upgrade, and here I'm going to install the JQ module that I need for the JSON parsing. Right, and now it's time to do the install of FileMaker Server. So I'm going to change directory, so I go into the install directory, and here I'm using curl command line URL. So that sounds familiar, right? Command line URL is something we also know from FileMaker. Awesome. But it's command line, which means that this is spawned to live in a terminal command, right? So it's not that scary. And this simple command is basically just downloading the file from Claris's server. Then we are going to unzip it, and we are going to tell where should it be, and so on, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to move something around, and then I'm going to clean up some stuff. That's, well, yeah. Anyway, that's how I do it. But here comes the actual commands. I'm going to sudo this, and I'm going to say this is an environment variable, I think it's called. I set up the FM assisted install file, that one with the username and password for the admin console, and then I'm going to say let's install, and I'm pointing to the install dir and then the FileMaker Server file name, and then that install package is doing a ton of stuff that Claris has built in. So that is installing some packages that is needed by the FileMaker server. It is installing and unpacking the FileMaker server folder and the libraries that is needed, and do the stuff that it needs to do. And then it's doing something that actually takes a lot of time, and that is installing and updating and synchronizing fonts. That's actually the thing that takes probably between 1 and 2 minutes of the install of 4 or 5 minutes. So that part takes a lot of time, but that's a part of the FileMaker server install. So now we have FileMaker server installed. Then we are going to do the setup for the data, the container, and the backup disks, so they have the correct permissions. So we can use that. Then I'm going to do the enable client stats, the FileMaker username, the password, the enable client stats, the enable server stats, and then I have to determine how much cache can I set to the database cache. And I just created a formula here that for me works most of the time. So what I say is set cache to a little less than half the total memory. And that's because we typically don't use custom web publishing, which you cannot do normally on Ubuntu. And we are typically not doing a ton of web direct. If we did, we would probably change the numbers a little bit, but by default, we're not using that very much. So I find it a little less than memory. So I take the total memory, divide by 2.2, which equals a little less than total memory. I get that cache memory here, and now I can update, say, set server config cache size to whatever I calculated up here.
I love that, by the way. I love that. Everyone forgets to do that. I love that.
Yeah, this part makes, and this is my likings. So you can just change that, right?
I like the fact that you're addressing this at all. We have people who install FileMaker servers and they never adjust the cache memory at all. So
for sure, because you don't know where to do it.
Yep.
You need to do
it's
a command
not really
line,
obvious.
And you need to know it's there.
Yep.
You need to know it's there, right? But the thing I like about this formula is that it doesn't matter which instance size I'm picking, because no matter which size I'm picking, I'm looking at what is the total memory, and I have this formula. So I don't need to adjust anything here. All right. Then I'm doing the Ssl Import, where I'm just making sure that we have right permissions here, which does matter on the SSL files. Then I'm going to do the certificate import here, blah, blah, blah. And as you can see, I'm using the file names here, and that's why I changed the actual file names from the package to these ones. I could have used variables if I wanted to, but for this one, I just said, no way. Let's just rename the files and put it into the folder package, and then it's ready to install here. Right, and then I'm going to restart the FileMaker server, the database engine, on a restart admin server, which is important, and then I'm going to restart the HTTP server, which is the Apache server. And then I'm going to sleep for 60 seconds. Oh, actually, that's probably why it takes probably 5 minutes now. The reason I'm going to sleep here this is basically a pause, just like in a FileMaker script where you can set in a pause for 60 seconds. It's called sleep here. They also have pause. I can't remember the difference, but it has to be sleep here. The reason I do this is because the Apache web server needs to get up and running again. I need to wait for that, and I just found that 60 seconds, then I'm on the good side of waiting. And 60 seconds more or less, it doesn't really matter with this script. And the reason I need this is that I need the SSL to be picked up by the Apache. So maybe I don't need to restart the server, but in order to connect to the admin API, I need to have these restarted, these processes, right? So then I'm going to set up the firewall rules for the retrospect, and that's just because I need that reload command. Then I'm going to install the retrospect. Again, I'm going to download it from the location I had. I'm going to unpack it. I'm going to change permissions so I can work with it. I'm going to go into the folder. I'm running a shell script that retrospect created for me. With a parameter, so it's in silent mode, and then there's a couple of commands that I need to do that, so make sure that the client launches after reboot. Then I'm going to fix the local settings where I'm going to say we want to go with Danish stuff, but I still want the language to be US, and then there's another local here. Oh yeah, I need to install it, and then I need to enable it here, right? So here we are with the MySQL drivers. I'm going to go in here to the right directory. I'm going to download the MySQL driver. I'm going to unpack. I'm gonna do some jimbo jabber here. That is basically installing the driver, which means also I need to run a couple of commands here and register and so on, blah, blah, blah. And then the file that I would get back to is the odbc.ini.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yep.
This file is specifying which settings that we need in order to connect to our MySQL instance. So let me just open this one. Let me open with a same application. Right. Okay. So this is the format. And by the way, I also write that in the shell script. The format that is listed on Iris's website didn't work for me. So, but this one do. This is the DSN name for the connection. I just for this setup I just said int, but it could MySQL driver, whatever. And in here, this is the one that you pick up inside FileMaker when you set up the ESS feature.
Okay.
It has a description, well, blah, blah, blah. Then this is the name of the driver, and that was the driver I just installed. That was the 8.0. Here's the database name for the MySQL database name that you want to do. Then you need to put in the MySQL server address, the username and password in order to connect to it. The port is 3306 by default. And then it's pretty important to set up the character set. UTF-8 is pretty standard. So if you prepare this file, and by the way, you can, if you need to connect to several, MySQL or MS SQL or Oracle, or whichever database server you need to connect to with the ESS feature, you can just add it to the same file here. So you can prepare that so that the file is actually already ready when you upload the package. Don't save, and then this command will move this file into the right place where you can where the MySQL will pick it up and FileMaker Server will connect to it. All right, and then I just also put it in here the format of this odbc ini file. Right. So now we're going to do some FMS setup via the admin API, which is a little bit it's curl, so we can do it here, but we need to create a token, and that's first that we need in subsequent calls. So I'm setting a variable called in here. I'm going to do the actual command in here. This is the format. I'm not digging into why this is the format, but it is. But here is the command that I could put in here, request host, and then I have the host name here and the path in order to do the authentication. And here's my basic login that I just put in here. I prepared that in my variables section. Then I'm getting a token, and the token is the whatever I get back from the login here, and then I pick out from, and that's where the JQ library is needed, because I need to look into that JSON string that I get back from the login and maybe some other stuff if I wanted to. So now I'm going to update the server name. I'm going to run the curl, location, request, path, and in here you can, instead of having a single long line, you can use a backward slash in order to say, I'm not done yet. So look at the next line and consider that as still the same line. This is standard command line stuff and shell scripts. And that's just for the readability, because you can see I didn't do that up here. It's a longer line, and but you can do that.
Sure.
There's some header stuff, bear, and here I'm using the token because I need that token in order to speak with the admin API. So here I'm updating the server name, and here is the data raw, which is a JSON in here. And that is taken from, and by the way, it's just taken from the documentation in here. and you can see all the samples here. I used the what's his name? The Postman. To
yes,
put
Postman.
in
We use a lot of Postman
in here because Postman will actually give me the codes. I just copied from Postman and put in here and just cleaned it up a little bit. So I just put it in here, and here's the server name. Disable auto open databases. This is the JSON for that one. Set the folders for database and container, because that's in the same call. Use other true root database root folder. I put it in here. File Linux data.
Okay.
Remote container true. The path is container, and backup container data true. I said that this was something I did. If you don't want to back up the container, you can just set this to false, right? Okay. And then the backup is basically the same. It's just in a separate call. Endpoint, enable DAPI. That's a simple one as well. Enabled. Set up email notification. So that's a bit longer string here. Email sender address. I put it in here. The reply address. Email recipients. And you can put in several recipients here.
Okay.
The SMTP server address is put in here. What's the port? What is the SMTP username? What is the password? And what is the auth type? And what is the SMTP security setting? And this explanation for this is in the documentation of the admin API, right? And then we need to enable the email. Then I'm going to enable the DBS plugins. And I'm going to enable DBS plugin installation here. And then I'm going to fill and this was set to false, so maybe it should have been true. Instead, that was the database visibility. So fill up the list
you want to set that to false. That's why, yep.
Yeah, and then the server discoverability is also an endpoint, so I do this. And then a very important thing is to log out, because I think there can be 3 active admin API sessions at the same time. And if you're logging in and logging in and logging in, then you blocked yourself.
Yep.
And then you have to wait for 15 minutes. So make sure that you always log out again. It doesn't matter that much for the DAPI, because it will allow a lot more sessions, but with the API, you really need to do that.
It's only 3. I did not know that. I learned something new. It's only 3 data API sessions.
Not data API, admin API.
Admin. That's what I meant. Admin API. Admin API. Yeah. Because data API is like 400 or something, whatever it is. Yeah. So.
500.
500 now. Well, that's they've updated that number. All right. Wow.
I think it has been 500 for a long time. Actually.
Oh, okay. Well, very rarely do I get that high with the servers, but yes. Let's see. So what else you got in here? You got to do a little cleanup.
So now we are gonna clean up the file. So so basically what I did. Let me get this one that was nice looking. So what happened in here is all the files and the folders that is started with a period is hidden folders, and it's very important that you don't delete this stuff, especially the SSH folder, because if you delete that, then you cannot get to the server. Then you're toast. But I want to delete this one and any other folders of files that might have been in here. So, which apparently I didn't do. Strange. But normally this command, I don't know what happens here, but normally this command works. Just remove, and then the star sign is very important. I can tell you, that's why I put this in. It's important to use the star, which will delete visible files, not invisible files, with, for example, the SSH. So this is learning by doing. So I smashed the server by deleting all the SSH stuff by accident.
Wow.
So I'm going to finish up by setting the host name for the machine itself, and then I'm going to finish up by sudo reboot. So this was the script.
I have
Sorry
a question.
for over time.
No, I have two questions. So one, are you sharing this script with people, right? Or do they need to contact you to get this script?
You know, you are so much welcome to get a copy of this script, but since this is kind of my notes, I don't want to give any warranty. So
it's an as is. Yes, as is.
What I will do is I'm going to type in here my email address. If you write to my email, I will send you the copy.
Okay, so here's how this works. So if you would like to hire Klaus or ask him nicely to get a copy of this file, a couple of you probably want to do that, you're going to email him here at this address, which I've made giant on screen. And once again, Klaus is available. I'm assuming you still will allow people to hire you, right? Are you available to be hired by someone if they can pay your hourly rate? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so Klaus is available to help you, or he will send you the sample file, but if you ask for free support for the sample file, it comes with no support. So if you download the sample and it works, that's great. If you can make it work or recycle it, that's great. If you can't make it work, then you need to give up or write a check to Klaus and he will help you with it. So that's how that works, right, everyone? So because it was like starting points, like here's free CRM. Oh, I want you to teach us how to use it for free and make it work for us. I'm like, okay, there's a limit to free. There's a limit to free.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we want to help each other in the community, and I do that gladly, but I cannot pay my bills with free.
That's what I tell people. It drives me nuts. So, yes. So, cool. Well, there's Klaus right there with his big email. And cool. And so we have any other final questions? Not really. So if you have any questions, once again, you want to talk to Klaus, great developers in Europe. FileMaker, one of the top companies in Europe without a doubt, if not the most top company, notwithstanding Christian Schmidt, where Christian Schmidt makes plugins. But in terms of just what we call data mercenaries, right? You hired them, they rappel in with helicopter, they fix your FileMaker. If you need data mercenaries in the FileMaker world, Klaus Levent from Datamatics, you can see it right there at the top of the screen, and you saw that email previously. We highly recommend him. So, anything else, or are we done for today?
That's basically what I had to show.
Oh yeah, put your email, slide it over here for me so I can see it on screen. There we go. All right, very cool. All right, everyone, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you for the hard paying attention with us and staying through the long explanation. But there's a lot to learn in here, and a chunk of this is on the certification test. Not really the command line stuff, but some of these accessories he's turning on, they'll show up in the certification test. So, all right, well, that's it for now. I'm going to hit the closer, and I'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!